Check, 1, 2. Welcome. Good evening, Antioch. Is that how you say it? The H is silent. Good evening, friends. Come on down. Other side. Yeah. Look at I know how it feels. Look at this. What a guy. All right. Well, good evening, friends. Thank you so much for being here. And we are also live on the internet. Is that correct? So welcome to all you guys who are live streaming. Glad you're with us too. Happy Selection Sunday to all of you. Big deal. I think it was a typo on ESPN because I didn't see the Beavers for some reason. So must be something wrong. Well, grateful that you're all with us, and good to be together tonight. The basic idea is that we're going to spend the first 40 minutes or so of our time hearing from some of our staff and elders, giving some updates about what's happening in the life of the church and some of our various ministries, just wanting to loop you in on what's happening as well as inform you on some things to look forward to. And then the second half of the evening will be an open time of Q&A and a chance for you to interact a little bit with some of the leaders. And so if at any point during the presentations you have a question that comes to mind, feel free to jot that down. And we'll take some time later in the evening to respond to questions. And you can also email the questions to info@antiochchurch.org if you're online or would rather just submit them that way. So we'll do that a little later. But sure appreciate you guys being here, and it's good to be together tonight, and I'm excited about what God's doing in the life of our church. And so we'll dive right in with our executive pastor, Kip Jones, and he's going to share with us a financial update, including...
I'm joking. It was my fault.
Gosh.
You got to turn the mic on. I think I'm a little loud. Do I sound loud?
Oh, yeah.
You can bring it down. Pete holds it down here. I hold it where you're supposed to hold it.
Right here's fine. This is no problem.
How are you guys doing? Good. So, yeah, I'm up here to give a financial update. I love doing it. It's so much fun talking about numbers. I love this. So the first thing I want to talk about is we put together this 2021 financial update. If you didn't see it, it has good stuff in it, and I just want to highlight a couple of the things in it, and then we can move on to this year. The first thing I want to highlight is the budget for last year. Last year's budget was $739,500, and I'm happy to say that the staff did a great job of spending, and our expenditures were at $740,127. And we've actually done this multiple years, and you can tell that our staff actually cares about trying to hit the budget and doing what we're supposed to do. And so you can rest assured that we try very hard to steward the money well. And so I wanted to show you that. I think this is the closest we've ever been to almost hitting it just right. So, oh yeah, thank you. Pretty fun. For last year, our net giving, and if you remember, our net giving is the giving that comes into the general fund minus our compassion and justice fund. And if you remember that, we give 10% of all the money that comes in to the general fund to the compassion and justice fund. And so after that, minus the expenditures, we were at $49,000 in the hole last year, which is a lot. We have reserves, which we used to cover that, and so we're still in a good spot. This year's budget is $720,000, so it's $20,000 less than last year. So I feel like this year, being in our building, if you remember, we were only in this building from August to the end of the year. We were online, we were doing the park, and so this hopefully will be a more consistent year when it comes to money coming in, and also just our expenditures are more even across the board. So this year already, we're up 22 grand in the first 2 months. That has never happened in the history of Antioch. It's a great year. It's a great year so far. This is awesome. But I appreciate everyone who gives faithfully and consistently every month, so thank you for that. But it's a great year so far. Back to the pandemic, which is the last time I'm ever going to talk about the pandemic, hopefully. Hopefully. I wanted to show you guys something very interesting, two different things. The first one, this first number, is our last Sunday of meeting at Ben Senior High before the pandemic. We had 331 people at our service, and this was March 8th. That was our last service. And exactly almost 2 years later to the date, we had 303 in this building. And so it's great to see how we made it through the pandemic. We're in our new spot, and it just feels good to kind of be back on track. It was a crazy couple years, which you guys all know. The other thing that was crazy is this is a picture probably about the exact same time 2 years ago of this area right here. You can see by the lighting and just the river rock and these weird rooms that you hide in back here. There was a lot of work that needed to be done, and in those 2 years of the pandemic, it now is a place where we can worship and spend time together. So pretty amazing. We're very thankful that throughout the 2 years we were able to do all these things. And so God was very faithful. You guys were a very faithful congregation, so thank you for all that. Not yet. You got to... Madel. For you online, that was Madel talking when she's not supposed to be talking. I'll repeat what Pete said. We would like for you guys to remember your questions and ask them at the end. I almost want to take this one just because I do love Madel so much. So, and the last thing I want to say about the building is we are very thankful with the inside, and we are in, what word would you use? We were trying to figure out what we're going to do to the outside, and we're getting closer. Close to getting closer to figuring out the outside, which I know you guys are all big troopers because we have a tent out there. It works great. We have heating and all that stuff. We have this TV up there now, which is awesome. But we still want to take care of the building. We still want this area of this neighborhood to look nice and be a place for our neighbors. So we still have a little work to do out there, and we're trying to figure all that out. So thank you. Sorry, Madel. Sorry.
Very good. Thanks, Kip. Next up, Sean Del Baccaro. And Sean's our pastor of community and formation. And give us an update on what's happening in those departments.
Yeah, so I can talk about that in one sec. I'm supposed to remind about a few other things. First, March Madness. If you care about middle school or high school students, you will participate in the March Madness bracket, okay? Trying to raise money for the youth program. The youths improve some of their rooms and have some fun stuff for them. So make sure you sign up for that. I believe, I don't know if it's good. Baylor is a 1 seed. Is that a good thing? It seems like a good thing. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it did. Okay. Next thing, Good Friday. That's coming up on April 15th, 7 p.m. We're really excited. Let you guys, a little look under the hood. Okay, if we start something at 7 p.m., that means it's 1 hour long, okay? Good Friday service. Family meeting starts at 6:30, an hour and a half long. So just a little insider info for you. My bedtime is 8:15, so we need to finish up by 8 so I can get home and go to sleep. Easter Sunday, we are going to have 3 services. We have 2 right now, and as you can tell, many of you were here this morning, we are beginning to overflow, which is a good problem to have. We'll see how long we can keep your precious aisle, but Easter Sunday, we got 3 services, 8, 9:30, and 11. If you're going to be up and awake, I encourage you to come to the 8 a.m. service. I imagine that's going to be the least popular for folks with kids. So what we want you guys to do is to register as soon as you can. We're going to try and fill out each of those services as much as possible, as evenly as possible, and make space for everyone, and so that we can invite folks from our community to be a part of it. So we got some fun stuff planned for outside, some good food that we're going to be eating. So make sure you join us for Easter Sunday. Okay. In the world of community and formation, you may have noticed that we're doing this kind of book of the month thing. So every month we're asking Antioch to read a book together. And the way that is kind of alternating is every other month will be a book about justice. So we've done several of those with Amy. And then in the opposite months, we will be looking at a book through each of the other 5 practices we talk about. So we'll be doing that through the remainder of the year. Some groups are doing those. Some people are doing that individually. We talked about this morning. I don't need to reiterate all the different prayer resources, but some stuff we're doing there in terms of formation, discussion, that book, How to Pray. In terms of community, we have lots of groups that are restarting, groups that have kind of reset a little bit in the pandemic, and some new ones that are starting. We have groups all across the city, even up in Redmond. I see the Nelsons here, Redmond and North, what do you call you guys, Tumalo? Just north of Bend, right? So we got groups meeting there. Several of those have space if you're looking to get connected. I believe is there a Forever Young group, I think? Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. Is this a Forever Young meeting tonight? I think so, yeah. So that's a great group that's starting. We're starting a second young couples group is starting soon. A new women's group is starting this week on Thursday, where they kind of started last week. Second women's Bible study is starting up. So there's all different types of groups starting, restarting, and I'm always looking for more leaders and folks to start more groups. And then the final thing, just it's going to be a little bit of a teaser. You're not going to get all the info, but just a teaser. Would anybody be interested in going on a fall retreats with their church family? Yeah. Okay. So this week, our staff is going to visit 2 camps up in the mountains, and we are going to be looking at which one of those is best for us to go on an all-church retreat this September. A little bit later than summer we do, but it's going to be a place that has working restrooms. Yeah. I know the scout camp, there's some questions about that. It's going to have working restrooms. Both of them have working restrooms. Places to stay if you don't want to camp. So there'll be beds and rooms and heating and those type of things, running water, as well as places to park your trailer or to camp. So more info is coming up on that, but that is something that we're really excited about.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Next up, Amy Kassari. She's our pastor of hospitality and justice.
That's it? That's my intro? Okay. I thought maybe I might get more. I don't know. It's fine.
And this is her.
I feel like Sean had more. It's okay. It's okay. No, mascots. I did mascots. This year's colors. Yeah. Somebody else do mascots. I don't know. So, gosh, we had a doozy of a couple years, and I am so excited that we are moving out of that, and our Compassion and Justice partners, ministry partners in town are up and running, and we have people volunteering, and things are happening. It's awesome. So I wanted to read a list, just so you know, and then I'll highlight a few of who we invest in, who our ministry partners are. So locally, we partner with Shepherd's House, Every Child, which is a foster care group, Expose Hope, In Our Backyard, Latino Community Association, Safe Parking, which I'll tell you about in a minute, Young Life Bend, and the Salvation Army, who are our neighbors. And then I added a new category on our website under sort of our compassion and justice called racial reconciliation, as these last 2 years have seen just the rise of racial tensions, and we've engaged with that through quite a few sermon series and book reads. We're sort of honing in on a few partners that we want to invest in long term and have been invested in, and that would be the Voices School up in Portland, Hala Mentors in Portland, and then Erebon over on the East Coast are good friends and partners for us, and I will highlight the Voices School for you in a minute. And then lastly, our last category would be our sort of global partners, and that would include Jasper and Taylor Gerhardt at Arasha in Portugal, the Global Immersion Project with Jer Swigart, and the Bible Project, which is based out of Portland. So those are sort of a blast of all the people that we are invested in and are thrilled to partner with as we all come out of this COVID time. I wanted to highlight locally Shepherd's House. We've been partners with Shepherd's House for years and years. We have quite a few of their staff who attend Antioch, so there's pretty strong relationships. And lately, post-pandemic, we've had volunteers from Antioch working on the shower truck, which is our donation drive for the month of March. If you've seen a pile of bath towels in the entrance, that's intentional. We are collecting bath towels for the shower truck throughout the month, and also new underwear and socks. So if you want to be a part of that, I encourage you to bring those on Sunday or sometime during the week and drop them in the basket by the door. We also have volunteers who are working for the Women's House, volunteering for the Women's House, driving the residents around to appointments or running various errands. And then we have a few people who are mentoring at the Women's House as well. So Shepherd's House has so many opportunities to volunteer. There are so many pathways to engage with this organization, and I can't recommend it highly enough. If you'd like more info, please talk to me, because I'd love to connect you. Our next local outreach that I'd like to share is safe parking. This is coming soon. We are working with the city of Bend. We've set aside a few parking spots in our parking lot that we would like to allow some of our houseless neighbors to park in safely. We're just working with the city to clear the right people who meet the right recommendations to park here. So that is coming. Stay tuned. We will keep you in the loop and let you know what you can do to support our new neighbors there. Let's see. For racial reconciliation, I just wanted to highlight the Voices School. Most of you know of Kilns College, which was a college of theology that was birthed out of Antioch. And when that closed down, Leroy and Donna Barber took it over and rebranded it as the Voices School, which is a school for people of color. They offer leadership courses and really work to empower this next generation. So Donna and Leroy are friends of Antioch, and they come and visit. Donna's coming to preach pretty soon, so we're excited to partner with them. I'm heading up there in a few weeks to meet with them and just learn of other ways that we can get involved in the work they're doing. Globally, I wanted to highlight Arasha, which is an amazing global conservation agency, Christian, who really get it, that this is God's created world, and it is up to us to shine the light of Christianity in this area of conservation. So we have a team of 14 people. We just had our first meeting today that are heading to Portugal at the end of May to spend the week working with and learning from Jasper and Taylor Gerhardt, and I'm pretty excited about that. I would love to see that become an annual thing. So again, if you're interested in that, please talk to me, and I will talk your ear off about it. Last, global partner, the Global Immersion Project, which y'all should know Jer Swigart. He speaks here often and is a good friend and member of Antioch. The Global Immersion Project originally focused on learning trips, but with COVID, they had to pivot and have turned more into a teaching organization offering seminars and learning cohorts. And this year, Linda and I have joined, it's called the Journey of Hope Learning Cohort, which is working with leaders all around North America and the United Kingdom to help us learn how to practice reconciliation as believers, the theology and the actual doing of the work. So we're excited about that. Yeah, that's my spiel.
That's great. Thank you very much. Lots of exciting things. Thank you, Amy. Next up is Linda Van Voort. She's our family pastor. And last time we had a family meeting, I think it was October, we announced that our former youth pastor would be moving away, and Linda would be stepping into a new role overseeing kids and youth. And so she's been doing that for several months now and has given it quite a makeover, and it's going really well. So tell us about it, Linda.
You stole my opening part.
I apologize.
Yeah, that was a little longer than what
Pretend
you gave me.
I didn't say any of that.
So yes, correct. Last October, we announced that Brian was moving to Boston, and I was going to take over middle school and high school, as well as the Antioch Kids. And the only way that was going to work was if I found a bomb sauce assistant, and I hit the jackpot. Crystal Garner joined the team at the beginning of the year, and she is the answer to my prayers. She's just incredible. We have opposite strengths, which makes working together a complete delight. Now we are 3 months in, and I would love to give you a little update about youth and kids. So first, our youth group structure has changed a bit, and I would like to introduce you to the team. I think there should be some pictures coming. There we go. Okay, so we have divided up roles in Antioch Youth, and I want to introduce you to some of the small group leaders first. So in the 6th and 7th grade with the girls are Betsy Short and Alyssa Watson. And then with the 8th grade girls, there's Kelly DeVree and Emily Diaso. You'll see her husband here. He also is doing high school boys. With the middle school boys, we got Joel Schmidt. That's a really good picture of Joel. I just want you to take that in for a minute. And Sean Satterwhite. Then with the high school boys, we have David Diaso and Brent Wendell, who's right here in the 3rd row here. You can give him a round of applause, Brent. Yes, thanks, Brent. And then with high school girls, we have Katie Reeves, who is absolutely fantastic. On that note, we are looking for one more girls' small group leader for the high school girls, and if that interests you, please email me, text me, or send me a homing pigeon. I wrote that today, and then it just came out, so there we go. Then we'll go to the teaching team. We have Beth Rasmussen, Kevin Shaw, Caitlin Luttrell, whose husband also helps with games at youth group, sometimes Pete Kelly, and myself. And that has become a really fun, I'm not there yet, Sean. Thank you. And then I have a game team, which includes Callie Cackley and right above Ryan Luttrell. And so each Wednesday night, there's this beautiful rotation of small groups, of teaching time, and of some kind of really fun game. So this past week, we did sardines, and then this game called Treasure Hunt, which I'll show you some pictures from in just a moment. But we're having, so there we go. We're having a good amount of fun. We're using the Bible Project Reflections curriculum, and I love the conversations this is fostering. If you're curious what we're learning each week, you can access that by visiting the Antioch Youth webpage, and there you'll also find more resources if you or your teen want to continue learning. We have a fun summer calendar coming up, but first we have ice skating, which is this Sunday. If anybody wants to join us ice skating, it's $6 and it includes rentals from 12:30 to 2 on Sunday. A movie night, and then also summer camp is on the calendar. So that's an Antioch Youth update. Antioch Kids, I want to give you a sneak peek into the kids' classrooms now that we're 6 months into this building, this beautiful building that we get to call ours. So you'll see some pictures of kids from the past couple weeks as I continue telling you a little bit about Antioch Kids. So our curriculum takes us through the Bible in a 2-year cycle, and the first year is spent in the Old Testament anticipating the arrival of Jesus, and the second year is spent learning about the time Jesus was here on earth and the beginning of the church. So currently, we have just finished up learning about some of the judges God sent to remind people to worship God and trust God's love, and now we're on to the prophets who were sent to deliver similar messages. Today, kids learned about Elijah and the prophets of Baal, found in 1 Kings 18, which personally has been one of my favorite Bible stories since I was a kid. Each Sunday, kids bring home a recap, which asks 3 questions. What's your favorite part of the story? If you could ask God something about this story, what would you ask? And what did you learn about God from this story? I would encourage you to ask your kids those questions. Each week, you can also find out what your kids are learning, or kids in general are learning, by visiting the Antioch Kids webpage, where you will find a short recap, a link to the videos that we show, and also the virtual version of the recap, in case it gets lost on the way home. As of this morning, we have 24 more Sundays in the Old Testament, and we are eagerly awaiting the arrival of Jesus. We also have some dates on the calendar for elementary kids to go to summer camp, and have some fun ideas in the works for time together this summer. If you want to join either of these teams, Antioch Youth or Antioch Kids, I'm sure I can find you a really good spot.
Good job. Thank you so much, Linda. Next, Rick Gerhardt will come. He's the chair of our elder team, and these last two updates will be related to elder stuff. And so he's going to share a little bit about our church's sabbatical policy and some upcoming plans.
Okay. First of all, I want to explain, unless you actually have your own homing pigeons, they won't come back to you. So if you really want to send a message to Linda by homing pigeon, you'll have to ask me to bring one of my pigeons to you, tie the message to its leg, it will return to me, and then I'll email Linda.
That would be amazing.
So if you've been in Antioch any length of time, you know that we take Sabbath very seriously. And the idea of a sabbatical comes from the biblical principle of Sabbath. The Bible does not actually mandate that we give our pastors a period of rest and Sabbath, but for many centuries now, folks in the church as well as other walks of life have deemed it wise and prudent to let their key leadership people have a periodic time of refreshment. So I think most of you are probably familiar with this from university settings where professors get a semester or a year of sabbatical, but churches do it as well. And so here at Antioch, the elders have deemed it wise to do the same thing. And so we have a policy that gives our pastors a time of sabbatical every 7 years. And this is not just a vacation. This is meant to be a well-designed and intentional time period that balances a whole lot of things that include physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So it will involve some time with family, but also time alone with the Lord, times of just relaxation, and also times of growing or educating oneself. So last year, most of you may recall that we sent Linda on a 100-day sabbatical. And you've just seen her now. I don't know whether you can remember what Linda of a year ago was like prior to her sabbatical, but she was, diffident and listless and tongue-tied, really didn't have much energy to speak of. And so we really felt it was a good thing to send her on sabbatical, and we're pleased with the results of that. So all that by way of saying we have another pastor that the elders are sending on sabbatical this summer, and I'll let Pete take it from there.
It's me. And this is our 7th year here in Bend at Antioch, which is kind of hard to believe. But
and let me interject that he came to us after having served 7 years of planting his own church and did not get a sabbatical at that time. So he's long overdue.
Yeah, so when we moved here, our kids were 2, 4, and 6. And they're now 10, 12, and 14. So it doesn't feel like that long in some ways, but 7 years have come. So, and I am super grateful that the elders have provided this opportunity, and that as a church, we seem to be in a spot where something like this is possible as well. Probably at any point in the last 2 years, a lead pastor sabbatical probably wouldn't have been a good idea, but I think as we near this summer, the team that we have in place and the stability of our building and our congregation, we've kind of collectively discerned that this seems like a great time. And so I get 100 days this summer, basically from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I am so excited. Can't wait to spend a significant amount of time with Jen and the kids and enjoying summer together as a family, both here in Bend and also a couple big road trips and that sort of thing. And I'm excited on my side. I'm also excited on the church side, knowing that you all will be in good hands. And with our capable team of pastors and elders who will be covering Sunday mornings, as well as a little bit of a step up in the frequency of some really quality guest speakers for those 14, 15 weeks or so. It should be a really great time. And of course, we'll miss you, but really do feel the peace of God as it relates to freedom to step away for a moment, to rest and to recover and to regain some vision, and hopefully come back like Linda. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'll share real quick just a couple of the pieces that are in play. I'm working on a doctorate of ministry, if you didn't know that. A PhD is considered an academic degree. A doctorate of ministry is shortened to a DMin, which isn't a great title for a pastoral degree. But I'm getting my DMin at Western Seminary in Holland, Michigan. And it's a professional doctorate. And so particularly studying somewhat of a hero in the faith to me, who's Eugene Peterson, pastor who passed away several years ago. So I'm getting a doctorate in Eugene Peterson, which is super fun so far. So it's a 3-year program. I'm 9 months into it. And my next intensive will be in May, where we'll travel to Flathead Lake, Montana, and spend the week in Peterson's home, where he lived for the last 20 years of his life. And it'll be a time of studying, spending time with his family, his kids and grandkids, and taking in the beauty of Flathead Lake, which, if you know anything about Peterson, it's kind of a main character in his story, so to speak. And so I'm stoked on that opportunity. I will fly from Kalispell to Faro, Portugal, where I'll meet up with Rick and Amy and the rest of the Portugal team and spend a week serving alongside them and learning from Jasper and Taylor. And then on the final day of that Portugal trip, I'll take a quick flight up to Porto, Portugal, and that will be sabbatical day 1 for me. And I will, for the next 2 weeks, be walking the Camino De Santiago, which is an ancient Christian pilgrimage path that there's a number of different ways. The red line there is the little path that I'm going to do from Porto up the Portuguese coast to the Compostela. And so there's paths that take months, and this one is about 150 miles. So 12, 15 miles a day over the course of 2 weeks. And for me, it represents beginning the sabbatical specifically focused on time with God. And I don't enjoy walking, so I'm a little bit worried about that part of it. I know Uber's also a possibility, so it doesn't feel like quite the same, but I'll try to resist that. But that is the goal, is to kind of follow this pilgrimage path and to begin the 100 days with a couple of weeks in the company of God. And so I'm really looking forward to that. It will end up being 4 weeks total away from Jen and the kids, which I wouldn't prefer, but just kind of how it came together. And then the rest of the summer, we're going to have as much fun as we can as a family, and looking at a couple road trips, possibly one north and one south, get up to Jen's people in Canada, and then get maybe down to Southern California and into Mexico as well, and just enjoy this season of life that we have with our kids, and as well as just continuing to pay attention to the places that God's wanting to form me and prepare me for kind of the next haul. And so really grateful for the opportunity, and I'm thankful that Antioch has this policy and position, and I'm looking forward to it. So,
You guys good with that?
yeah. Thanks, Rick. So lastly, before I take off for the summer, our hope is to install several new members of our elder board. And so if you've been with Antioch for the last 6 months or so, hopefully you've been kind of following along in this process of us very seriously and prayerfully kind of taking a look at the position that we had held for many years since the beginning of Antioch 15, 16 years ago, and feeling compelled for multiple reasons to re-examine that position and revisit the scriptures and see if there's something that we might be missing as we kind of looked at this next season moving forward. And so I won't rehash the whole process and all that kind of stuff. There are materials available if you're interested in reading and hearing more about how we got to the position. But long story short, we came to a place last fall where we together as leaders in the church discerned that in this next season, we wanted to invite and empower women to join our elder team, in addition to the men that have faithfully served for all these years. And so this represents for us something of a correction, a position change as it comes to our doctrine and our practice. And that's a really big deal. Antioch's never done that before. And at this point, we're not planning on doing it again. We take seriously the tradition of faith that we've received and has been passed down to us. And so we move slowly, and we tried to bring as many people along with us as possible, but really do feel confident that moving forward, this is something that both is consistent with the teaching of Scripture and the heart of God, and much needed, both in our life as a church and in the world today. And so what happened in October is we gave you, the congregation, the opportunity to submit names of those that you would like to nominate as potential elders, both men and women, within the church body that you saw as qualified candidates. And we got dozens and dozens of names. And it was a really fun thing just to simply affirm that God has given our church a lot of really wonderful folks. So many men and women that we would say are biblically qualified, and we don't need 100 elders. And so we had to narrow that list down as we kind of pieced together this first round. And so what we want to do tonight is submit to you 3 names of those that have completed an interview process over the last 6 months or so. And these 3 individuals have kind of gone through the ringer with us. They've had to read a couple books. They've had to write some book reports. They've had to write pages and pages of information about their life, their ministry, their theology, their faith, their relationships. They've sat through interviews with us, and we tried to take real seriously the idea that we don't want to be hasty in the laying on of hands, that this is a big decision who we would trust and care the leadership of this church to. And tonight we have 3 individuals that we want to present to you, the current elders offering these nominees to you as the church. And so what I'm going to do is invite these 3 to come. They'll stand up here. And I'm going to take a moment to introduce you to each of them. And I didn't ask them, I told them they don't have to do anything tonight. They're not going to field questions. This isn't a group interview or anything like that. They're just supposed to look, is it elderish or elderly? Elderish, that's right. So Sean's going to pass around these sheets. Oh, can I get one of those actually? And so I want to present to you 3 elder candidates that we are really excited about. The first is Claire Russinen. Claire, you can come on up. The second is Diana Short. Come on up. And the third is Jerry Schultz. And Jerry, you can come on up. And so the 3 of you, just stand up here so the crowd can get a good look at you. And yeah, come on up, come on up. Do they need to scooch in for, yeah, you got to get on the internet, so come this way. And I will say we have one more candidate, another woman who is in the process with us, but because of schedule and all that, hasn't been able to complete the full interview process yet. And so our hope is that in the next couple weeks, we'll introduce one more woman who's going to be recommended as well. But for tonight, I couldn't be more excited about Claire and Diana and Jerry. And I have loved the opportunity to get to know each of them a little bit better over the last several months. And let me just read for you what you have in your hands, because I think it'll be important for you to get to know these folks a little bit too. And so the Antioch elders are pleased to present to the congregation the following 3 candidates for eldership: Claire Russinen, Diana Short, and Jerry Schultz. Over the last 6 months, each of these candidates has completed an extensive interview process that's outlined on the back of your page, and we have found each of them to be individuals of Christ-like character, biblically qualified for the office of elder, and passionately committed to the vision, mission, and congregation of Antioch. And so what you have there is a little bit of biographical information about each of them, where they came from, and their family life, their professional life, their passions as it relates to church and ministry and the gospel, and just a little bit of information to get to know them a little bit better. So I hope you'll take some time this evening or take that home and get to know them. And as I said, I could not be more excited about these 3 candidates. I really do, with all my heart, believe that they are the ones that God has chosen from amongst our congregation to join this team and to be part of leading our church forward into this new season. And so the basic plan from here, kind of if you look at the final step of the installation phase on the back of your page, tonight we're at step C1, the presentation of the congregation. And the next step, which we hope to have in the next few weeks, would be their installation, which is kind of the time on a Sunday morning where we will officially install them as elders. And so we'll give maybe 2-3 weeks to prepare for that. But that will be a really big day in the life of our church, where we will together lay hands on them and pray for them, and we will exchange vows between elders and church. And we couldn't be more excited about that day. And that'll happen, like I said, in the next few weeks. And so that's where we're at. And I know there may be more questions, whether if you're kind of new to this conversation, you may be wondering how we got here. We'd be happy to fill you in and chat about that. But on the whole, we are just celebrating a new thing that God's doing amongst us, new leaders, and the other half of God's image that's going to be in the room at the table shepherding this congregation. So as we transition to kind of the second half of our night, the Q&A time, will you join me? We'll pray for these 3 candidates, for the 4th one as well, and will you join me? Father, we are so grateful that in your family, you provide everything that we need, including the right people to lead and to care for your congregation in service and in prayer and in teaching and in stewarding. And so tonight we are especially thankful for Claire and for Diana and for Jerry. We are so grateful for the gift that they are to our church family and to Central Oregon. We're thankful for their willingness to free up space in their life to commit to serving this congregation as elders. And we're thankful for the work that you've done in their lives and the work that you've done in all of us through them. And so we pray over these next couple weeks as we prepare to lay hands on them and install them as elders, that you would meet us in this process, that you would go before us and prepare the way that we may celebrate this together as a church. And so we thank you, Lord Jesus, and receive them as your gifts to us. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's hear it for these folks one more time. Thank you. Thank you. elderish. Elderish. That's what it is. Awesome. Well, what we want to do for our last chunk of time here is open it up to field some questions. And so questions can be directed to me or any of the other pastors or the elders as well. Anything related to what we've talked about here tonight is fair game. And we'll do our best to field questions, and I'll kind of direct traffic, so to speak, and try to figure out who's the best fit for each question. And so here's what we need you to do, though, especially because we're streaming live, is if you have a question, slip up your hand, and Kip will bring you a mic. And if you would be willing to introduce yourself, tell us your name, and then speak your question into the mic. That way everybody, both here and at home, can hear. So anything else I'm forgetting? Does that sound right? Okay, good. So Madel, do you have a question?
Good evening, everybody here and online. I'm Madel Fries, and we've been here since, not quite since the beginning, but close to the beginning. And the first thing I wanted to say was I wanted to thank the staff for the year-end financial report and just the year-end report. It was put together so well, and it just really was a clear picture of what had been going on at the church for the past year. And so I wanted to thank I don't know if you did it or it was a collaborative effort, but it was, I think it's you. But thank you. We can be proud to be part of Antioch because we do so many things well. And then I just was curious, do you have any idea how you said there are 303 people here? Was that this morning? Last Sunday. How many people are actually joining Antioch online and still call this their church home, even though we don't see them in person?
I'll answer with this, Mike.
Come on up, Kip.
So yeah, the online thing we started because of the pandemic, and there is about, I would say, 15 to 25 households that watch online per Sunday. And we really don't know how many people that equals, but since I think 2 weeks ago, I think the numbers are actually going down more since our the variant is going down, Omicron is going down. We've seen more people come back to church on Sunday and less people watch online. I think there was 14 online this morning. So, but yeah, it's a great thing that we have, and I think we're to keep doing it for a while. It's good.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Kevin. Related to that, I was wondering, how do you calculate the in-house attendance each week?
We do a count of the heads in here, and then the kids check-in counts for us, so it's very easy. And we just add those two together. So we actually do a physical count for both the first service and the second service.
Great. What else?
Hi there, Jerry Schultz, longtime member of Antioch. I had a question, or maybe just a shout out in Sean's area of groups that meet. We have a Wednesday morning men's group. In case I didn't hear you say that, but and several of the men that are here tonight have attended it. It's a great group. We pray and we talk about things and solve the world problems.
Sean, do you have a response? A rebuttal?
I did not mention every group that is meeting, just some of the new ones. And that's a great group. One of my favorite groups that meet today. If you think that I'm still sleeping when that group is meeting, my baby is definitely awake at that time.
Got another one over here.
My name is Pam Powell, and I just wanted to recognize Sean for the growth that I've seen in his ministry here. He's so at ease now. I love his sense of humor, and it rolls out very naturally. So what a blessing he's been to our group.
Sean.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That one right there.
Oh, that guy. Yeah. No, I agree. Thank you. Yeah, Sean joined our team as a community pastor in the middle of a pandemic, which is an incredibly challenging position to be in, and has done a wonderful job connecting our congregation with each other, with our staff, in amazing ways. And we're excited we can do that in real life moving forward. So
I just wanted to add one more thing. I missed yesterday, which was March 12th. That's 3.12, which happens to be pi, and I'm a math person, so.
Oh, it's tomorrow, 3.14, Pi Day. Is that right?
Oh, did I mess up?
I appreciate the reminder, because
And when we met for our elderly group, Young at Heart, Medell had us count off by the square root of 4. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Pam. Oh man, I love pie. I'm gonna hit that hard.
I was wondering how you calculate the annual budget and if there are points throughout the year at which you reevaluate the budget that you've calculated.
Kipper.
For the most part, our budget is calculated kind of based on where we've been the year before, and we reevaluate the needs of the church, where ministries are trying to go, the things they need. And so we kind of used last year's budget to calculate this year's budget. But then we also look at the number of people that go to our church and, you know, the gifts and stuff that come in. So right now, for this last year, we dropped it by 20 grand because we didn't hit our goal. We were 49 grand under for the end of the year, and so we've dropped it, and we'll see how it goes. We think it's going to be a better year giving just because we'll be inside our building the whole time. So that's kind of how we do it.
Thanks, Kip. What else? Medell.
It's me again. Were you, Kip, going to give us a little update standing here on what the upcoming plans are for the building, the parking lot, the outside? I thought you were going to say something about that, and I didn't hear very much.
Yeah, thanks. I can hit that real quick. We are in conversation with an architecture firm we're looking at entering into contract with the hopes of a vision, a master plan for the property. And so we have a half acre that we sit on. And so we've been able to renovate the interior, but really haven't touched the exterior yet. And so the hope is that over the next few months, we'll be able to hire an architecture firm that will help us come up with a vision that would not just be the building itself, but the entire property. We're looking at potential lots of kid space in the backyard and the side yard. The tent probably won't last forever, but we actually kind of really like the way it's working. And so some sort of permanent indoor-outdoor community space that we can use on Sunday mornings and throughout the week. And also thinking through parking and all that kind of stuff. And so when that time comes and when we have something to show the congregation, the hope is that we will begin a capital campaign. And we have some reserves that we're able to tap into, but to really do this well in a way that we think reflects the glory of God, the beauty of the gospel, then we'll need the congregation to pitch in and raise some money. And so So that's why we're not doing a whole lot on the exterior at the moment. We're just making it functional because we don't want to start investing in upgrades when we don't have a master plan for how it all fits together yet. But yeah, we really do dream of this being a beautiful corner that is good news to the city and reflects the values of our church in terms of reconciliation and justice and environmental care and all that. So I can't wait to see what that looks like and to invite you in when the time comes. So. And I'll mention real quick, Medell mentioned the annual report and what was the other one? The year-end report. Financial report and the annual report. Thank you. Yeah. Both of those are out in the hallway on the rack. If you didn't get a copy, we'd love to show you a little bit more on the numbers that way. Other questions? Yeah. Carrie.
Carrie Gillette. Just curious if you could provide an update on what relationship we have with the folks from Dios es Amor, with whom we share the building after the renovations and that sort of thing, if we are involved with them further than just sharing space.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Yeah, we have well, do you want to speak to this, Amy? Yeah, go ahead. That's all right.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, there's a Latino Fellowship that meets on Sundays following us. If you attend second service, you probably see them trickling in. They meet here from 1 to 3. Their congregation has shrunk quite a bit during COVID, but we are very, very good friends and constantly looking for ways to partner and find areas that we can worship together and grow those friendships. So I hope as the pandemic lessens some of the restrictions to see a resurgence in some of that. But our relationship is great. Very good friends.
We don't charge them to worship here, and they were actually here before we were, and so we're thankful they don't charge us. But yeah, sure.
Charlene Schultz. But what happened to the Korean congregation? They were smaller.
They were smaller, and Hans and Sharon, who were the pastors, they moved up to Seattle. And that kind of represented the end of that fellowship, unfortunately. So a couple of the members have stayed connected to Antioch, and you'll see them from time to time. But I think that was pretty much the entire Korean population of Central Oregon, and not much left, unfortunately. But, yeah. Yeah, in the back. Oh, Joel.
Hey guys, Joel, I've cleaned up the look a little bit since the picture you guys saw earlier.
You shaved.
I shaved, yeah, a little less cousin it. Pete, can you fill us in a little bit? So sabbatical coming up. I know there's a laundry list of things that you do every week to lovingly serve the community and our congregation. Can you just let us in a little bit of what that's going to look like as other team members, as the congregation is able to step up and kind of provide help in those areas while you'll be gone for the 100 days?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So the other pastors, I mean, kind of our arrangement anytime one of us is on sabbatical, the arrangement is that the team steps up and does whatever we can to free that pastor to go and to enjoy their time. So we did that with Linda last year, and I trust the team will do that with me this year. And which also means sometimes other leaders or volunteers kind of stepping in as well. And so Sean will be kind of primarily overseeing the preaching schedule and managing once we have kind of guest speakers booked and other pastors and in-house guest speakers. I wasn't supposed to say in-house because that implies that there's out-house speakers. So kind of our resident and our visitors. We have no out-house speakers. But yeah, Sean will kind of oversee pulpit ministry, so to speak. And then really on the front of kind of pastoral care and spiritual direction, meeting with members of the congregation. The rest of the pastors are already doing that on a regular basis. And so they will be available to anybody in the congregation that would typically want to come meet with me. They'll be available. And we'll have, hopefully, several new elders as well. And so at that level, I'll kind of trust the team to lead throughout the summer. And don't anticipate they'll make any drastic changes while I'm away. But you know what? Who knows what 6 months from now is even going to look like, right? So, and part of that is just trusting as well. And so, is there anything else I do here that people need to? No, that's about it. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's part of the amazing thing about being part of a team of pastors that leads together is that we already do share so much of the load in caring for the congregation together, and so we're able to do this. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, Arthur.
Yeah, I'm Arthur Seal, and have a question for Amy. What is you had listed up there LCA, Latino Community Association. What exactly do we do for them?
Thanks, Arthur.
Thanks, Arthur. I know you've been involved with LCA in the past. They made our list because they're an amazing organization working with immigrants and refugees in Bend, and we invest in them monthly and steer people, volunteers towards them. Anyone who wants to teach English or walk with somebody as they work on citizenship applications, the LCA is a great place to dig in and volunteer. So, does that answer your question? Good.
Yeah, lots of you all are involved in serving our Latino neighbors, and we really appreciate that. Others? Yes, Madal.
Oh, 10, maybe 10. We used to hear, Pete, about a consortium of pastors that included Missio Dei in Salt Lake and Imago Dei in Portland, and you talked about what a support you'd been to each other, and we haven't had a report for a really long time, and I just wondered if it was still in existence, and if so, what was happening with these other congregations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so really beginning with even before I came to Antioch, when I was in Corvallis and leading a church called Doxology, we were connected to Antioch, as well as 3 other churches in particular. There's some kind of looser connections as well, but Imago Dei up in Portland, Union Chapel in Vancouver, Washington, and Missio Dei in Salt Lake City. And I would kind of extend that to Redemption Church in Tempe, Arizona. And there was a time when we were kind of formally networked. It was called the Waterhouse Network. And as pastors, we kind of represented our churches in collective times together, pursuing church planting and also just trying to be sources of mutual encouragement as we navigated the challenges of ministry and that sort of thing. Several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, Waterhouse kind of fizzled, but the relationships have endured. And so I and some of our other staff and leaders have stayed connected to some of those other churches. I think primarily with COVID, we've, slowed down the traveling back and forth and speaking at one another's places. But yeah, there continues to be a small network of kind of who we consider like-minded congregations that, are in their own place, but in a lot of ways kind of have the same passion for the gospel that we do. And so it is one of the strange things about being a non-denominational church that at times we, can end up feeling a little bit isolated or disconnected from the greater body. And so those relationships are really important to me and for us as a church. And I would say the other layer of relationships that are really important are with the local body of Christ as well. And we see ourselves as just one part of Christ's body in Central Oregon. And within that, there are maybe 4 or 5 other congregations that we've just been blessed with a special relationship with. And I meet and spend time with pastors regularly at other churches, and we dream about what God might want to do in the city, and so relationships are huge, and we'll continue to pursue those. I mean, I'd say, again, this is, nothing official, but West Side and Riverbend and Foundry and New Hope and the Naz Church are the ones that come to mind in terms of those that we've collaborated with on kind of local mission sort of stuff, whether it's just learning together or even serving together in various spaces. And so when Oshita Moore was here a few months ago, when Dominique Gilliard was here, both of those were kind of, the idea was to co-host with Westside, as they're also kind of engaging this conversation around the gospel and race. And so we're excited about that and see what else comes down the chute. We're thinking there will be more. So, yeah, Chris.
Somewhat in that category, can you fill us in how Nathan is doing and up in St. John's?
Yeah. Okay. Been a couple months since we got an update. Yeah. So, Nathan was on staff with us as a pastor of worship and formation until, 2020, right? And at that point, we sent them out to do a replanting effort at Red Sea Church in North Portland in the St. John's neighborhood. And so it was basically a congregation that was looking for a lead pastor. And so Nathan and Carrie moved up there, and we've been kind of supporting them financially for the last year or so, whatever it's been. And again, this is 2020, and so he stepped in to a new pastoral role without the chance of being with the congregation in person for quite a while. So it was a Zoom interaction for a number of months, and in a church that had already been going through a hard time. And so he's been slugging away, and it's a difficult neighborhood in a lot of ways that was hit hard in. Much of Portland was affected deeply by 2020, and so he is plugging away. And the last, it's been a couple months since we chatted, but sounds like there's been some real stability, and they're back in person now, and things have been going well. Sure.
Hello, I'm Charlene. You know that. Few weeks ago, you had a good friend by the name of Pete who works at St. Charles as a chaplain, and I understand he is a support to your staff. But I was curious, does he have any role or relationship building opportunities with congregation?
Yeah. So Pete Santucci preached a number of weeks ago, and I mentioned then that he is a spiritual director for our pastors and staff, and so each one of them spends time with him each month. And I have a spiritual director that I see regularly and have found it to be so valuable, someone to just kind of help focus conversation around what God might be saying and doing in my life. And so our team has been meeting with Pete for the last year or so. His day job is a chaplain for the hospital system, and he's also an author. And so he's written quite a few things, but the thing that most recent is his rendering of the Psalms from the Hebrew into modern English. And so it's a wonderful resource. And so Pete and his wife Shar are part of the congregation here. They worship with us regularly. Their son Matthias was on keys this morning, if you were wondering who that fellow was. So yeah, they've been with us for the last year and a half or so. He doesn't have an official leadership role outside of staff spiritual director, but is a wonderful guy. And they live down in Sun River and have a home that they use as a retreat center, primarily for ministry couples, for pastors and spouses that need a place to go and recover and maybe get some counsel and that sort of thing. So that's what they do. Excuse me. But you should just track him down. He's a good guy to chat with. So, gift to the church. Got time for a couple more? Yeah, Kelly.
Thanks, Kip. Kelly, I had a question about the vision for small groups. I know we talked about how it's growing a lot, and COVID was so limiting with how we could gather outside of church. So I'm curious what that vision is moving forward, whether it's small groups or larger groups or what that looks like.
Group.
And if, like, when those groups meet, is there a structure they're given? Are there leaders that are designated? Just, yeah, what that looks like.
Sure, great. Sean, you want to take that?
Yeah, that's a great question. During COVID, we're kind of figuring things out as we go, and people comfortable, people not comfortable, all of that. But yeah, kind of the vision is we have kind of two different types of groups, community groups and formation groups. Formation groups are more kind of study-based or more practice-based. Oftentimes those go for a predetermined set period of time. So we have a women's Bible study starting a week from Thursday that's going for 6 weeks. And then community groups are more kind of long-term over the course of maybe a meeting for a year at a time. And so as we kind of get back, we're going to do some training events for how to facilitate conversation, facilitate discussion. We have some documents about how to host a group well, how to do that well. So kind of as we're figuring out how to come out of COVID and connect some more in community, we do some events around that and have some more defined structure for a plan moving forward. Does that clear it up? Cool.
Thanks. Anything else? What I'd love to do for our last few minutes together is turn the tables here. And I want to ask you a question or two. One of the things I've realized I need help with has to do with the area of self-awareness. And go down the trail of Enneagram or temperament or whatever. The truth is, if you ask me how I'm doing, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. So I'll say good, but that's just because that's what you say. For me to actually answer that question, honestly, it takes some work. And so I asked my spiritual director a few months ago, how do you know how you're doing? Which to some of you, this sounds like so ridiculous. Others of you might understand that. And what he gave me was a list of questions to ask myself, just really simple questions. And the questions are, what are you celebrating? What are you grieving? What are you dreading? Or what are you looking forward to? Just really simple things to kind of connect yourself to your life and to your experience and pay attention to kind of what's happening in you as a result. And so at our staff meeting every week now, we begin our time together checking in with those questions and sharing with one another something we're grieving, celebrating, dreading, or looking forward to. What I want to do is just in our last few minutes together is ask you, as it relates to Antioch, we're just going to do the fun questions. What's something you are either celebrating or looking forward to when it comes to our church and our ministry and what this community means to you and what God's got us doing in the city and in the world? I wonder if a few might just want to share even short, simple answers. What is something that you're celebrating or something that you're looking forward to? Chris. To the ladies joining us. Amen. That's going to be good, huh? Yeah, me too. Thank you. Shar. Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah, so good. Me too. Yeah, Lee.
I'm celebrating just the wonderful group that met of Forever Young. I tell you, when I walked in the door, I couldn't believe it. You know, so many, 55 people gathered.
That's amazing.
And I just love the friendships we've made here. Because when I first came to Summit, I looked around. It was at Summit High School. So when I first came to Antioch, I looked around. I thought, where are the friends? Where's anybody my age, Well, we found them. So I'm just real thankful for the fellowship. And I love being with the younger people, too. I love Antioch. And we appreciate you and the staff so much.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that. Yeah, there were 55 or so that were gathered here. That's our new 50-plus community, which I keep saying, I'm only 8 years away from being in that group, so I'm coming for you.
I'm Charlene again, and I just want to piggyback off of what Leah said, and that is, Jerry and I were looking through the membership directory, or whatever that's officially called, and the diversity and yet depth of our generations is so healthy now, and compared, not that it was unhealthy, but I teasingly say a few of us were the geriatric section 15 years ago, and we were pretty young 15 years ago, but everybody else seemed to be about 20. Kelly was still in college, if that. And today when I was looking, there were so many pictures of young families, and a whole bunch of us 55 pluses. So anyway, I just felt really, really happy about that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Of course, we lament that we aren't a more racially and ethnically diverse congregation, and we long for that. And at the same time, we celebrate that we are a more and more generationally diverse congregation, and that is to be celebrated, and that's hard to pull off as well. And so I think that is something to celebrate. Yeah, Justin.
I'm Justin, and I'm just celebrating that we're following the Christian calendar. We've been here for a little under a year and a half, a little over a year, and it has just been so life-giving. And I got the Prayer Liturgy from Pete, and that has been personally life-giving in my own quiet time. Like Pete said, it's when you were introducing me to the concept of it, what difference does it make is the question, and the answer is I actually pray now. And it's just like forms my prayer. And so that, coming to our first Ash Wednesday service was so moving, and it's just been so spiritually life-giving for us.
That's great to hear. Thanks, Justin.
I'm Marcia, and we are newbies.
Hey.
We've been here 6 months, but all of it on the internet. So if it dropped to 14, it'll drop to 13 next week because we're coming back.
Awesome.
But we saw you in Drake Park. That was actually the first week we went, and I'm going to do one that was on your list that you didn't want us to do. What are we mourning?
That's fine.
We came here from Charleston, South Carolina, and we were Anglicans, and we loved our church, and you mourn it because it was like the center, especially since our kids are out here. It was sort of the center of the universe for us at that time, and so you really miss those people. But the thing we're celebrating is the same thing. This is not an Anglican church, but this is an Anglican church. It's like there's not one in town, and so we know Sean from Chicago. He was very close friends with our daughter, and so we know him, and knew that he's not a nut job, so we'd come to his church. And it turned out to be so close. And then the other thing I'm celebrating, there's two things, is the women's prayer group. Because you want to meet with, it's Zoom, but these are the most loving people. How do you pull that off, being loving on Zoom? And they did it. So
that is so great. Thank you so much. Welcome. Carrie.
Something I'm looking forward to is as we move into this next season on the topic of the intergenerational aspects of our church is on behalf of all of the families that have children in Antioch, we invite all of you to mentor us. All of our kids have collectively been sick for the past 2 years. Can I get an amen? And we haven't wanted to get any of y'all sick, but now I have heard this from many families. Some of us have family in town, and a lot of us don't. And we don't want you to silo yourselves. So by all means, hang out in your 55-year-old party, and then get in cahoots with each other to seek us out and mentor us. We need that, and we want to learn from you, and we want your love, and we want your wisdom, and we want you to hold our kids, and we want it to do life with you. And we're excited that we don't want to just be around each other because we don't know what we're doing. So. Yeah, I'm excited that we're trying to get our small group, and Tom and Melanie Meyer are part of mentoring us. But if you're not, please, we need it. We need you.
That's great. Thanks, Carrie. Couple more. Oh, in the back.
I think I'll go on the other side of the really awesome older crew and bragging about our youth. It's been awesome. It really has been really cool. I've been involved with Antioch Youth for, I guess, a year and a half now, something like that. And it started out with a large population of the kids that it was very obvious that it was parents pushing them to go, grandparents pushing them to go, kind of a forced hand there. And they'd have fun during the games, and it was good. But showing up now and just seeing kids' faces light up when they're there. And I think that's a huge tribute to both the leaders, the small group leaders, as well as Linda taking over and just taking that to a whole new level. I think there are so many people to thank for that, but I think it's also just the culture of the church. I mean, it's such a loving place, and it's so it's obvious that those kids are loved. It's really obvious when they show up, and I see that they're experiencing that, and I see them developing relationships with each other, with the leaders, and wanting to come back more and more each week they come. So that's been really, really neat to see, and I'm just so excited to see that progress further as we see the younger kids kind of grow up and take on more responsibilities themselves and kind of trying to establish student leaders. I mean, it's stuff that's so healthy in the church. So that's been something I've been celebrating a lot recently.
That's great. Thank you, Joel.
You stole mine a little bit. I'm actually very excited for summer camp. Linda. I believe it or not, I'm excited to take those kids to summer camp. I think it's going to be really good, and I'm glad we get to do it. The other thing is, as someone who does music, I'm so thankful we don't have to tear down and set up every week. So I know it's been a while, but I just want to acknowledge that. It's such a blessing to have this space to come and go from and rehearse in, and I know I'm biased, but thank you for that.
No, it really is amazing for those that have been around for a while and remember all the setup and tear down that happened every week at the high school. And I think, unless I'm forgetting something, we just sold off our final piece of portable equipment, our pipe and drape system, and we passed it off to a church planter who was, starting at a school or something as well. And the fire in his eyes, I'm like, oh, I remember. But it actually was really cool to kind of be able to pass that off to another church that's in the same spot, and our trailer is more and more empty all the time. So, yeah, Carrie.
Carrie Sundberg. Excuse me. I just thought that it would be good to share from my granddaughter's perspective. They aren't here tonight because they went over to play some soccer. But anyway, Sophia was telling us that she's gone to some other youth groups with some friends, and she said, you know what? I really like Antioch. I think they're really awesome. And that she liked the smallness of our church. And I know that growth is good, but I too am kind of partial to just being known here. And Sophia feels very known, and she's really enjoying her interactions, and she's just saying, yeah, I've gone to other youth groups, and they're fun, but I really like Antioch, and Ava as well. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that.
That is great. Yeah, I could geek out on kind of numbers and diagrams, and there's no good or bad or right or wrong, but we are a very good-sized church. And if we grow, so be it. If we shrink, so be it. But we're at a great size right now, and I'm glad you're enjoying that. One or two more?
I'm really. No, it's only 4.
Could you stand, Mandel? Oh, you are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That hurts me. No.
You know I love you.
In the past, family camp has been such a significant event for us because when you spend 2 nights and 3 days with people and you don't leave, you really get acquainted. So I am so excited that you're trying to resurrect that tradition. Of course, we couldn't do it during COVID.
Yeah.
But thank you. And we're just praying something works out so that we can really, really do this. Yeah. And then it is just so wonderful. I'm so thankful. I know a lot of people don't like Zoom, and it's nobody's favorite, but it's way better than nothing. It really is. And for all the staff have done the last 2 years to keep us connected when sometimes we couldn't meet together. Yeah. And being able to come to church on Sunday morning just anchors my week. Now I can remember what day of the week it is because I went to church on Sunday. But thank you. Oh, it's a joy to be involved here.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Is there one more? So good. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Really has been good to be together, and I appreciate each of you taking the time to come and to hear about and to celebrate what God's doing amongst us. And I'm looking forward to this next season. Sean needs to get to bed, and so I will let you go. Anybody want to volunteer to close us in prayer? You can't, Kip. John, that would be great. Let's stand, and John will pray for us as we go.
Father God, thank you so much for this family of a church family here, the community. Thanks for the missions that you've put on our heart for Antioch. Father, thanks for the progress that we can take joy in. We love you, Father. In Christ's name, amen.